The moment those words left my lips, I stared at Cui Yeji, suspicion tightening in my chest. He wore a soft smoke blue robe, a folding fan in hand, flicking it lightly. His black hair fluttered in the wind, making him look effortlessly radiant. My heart trembled before I could stop it. His gaze deepened as he asked again, "Did you not hear me? I want to eat wontons made by your own hands." I moved to slam the door shut, but Cui Yeji's broad hand slipped in, holding it ajar. "Qing Tang, I haven't finished speaking. Young Master Cui, I opened a cosmetics shop, not a noodle house. If you want wontons, go to the crossroads and turn left." Cui Yeji leaned sideways, forcing his way in. Both his hands grabbed my arms, eyes locking onto mine. "Why did you refuse my mother's proposal?" His eyes were gentle, but all I felt was a shiver running down my spine. I jerked my arms free and stepped back twice. "You saw the situation yourself, young Master Cui. My house is empty now. I barely managed to sell the ancestral estate to pay off my debts. All I have left is this tiny cosmetics shop. I truly don't deserve you." His expression darkened. "I don't care. Stop joking. I heard you already have a betrothal with the second daughter of the Qin family. She wants to go to the capital's consort selection. She." I pushed away the hand that was trying to cling to me. "In that case, I even more cannot marry you. Even if the Qin family has declined and both my parents have passed away, I, Qing Tang, will never be someone's second choice." Cui Yeji lifted his eyes. If I wasn't mistaken, a faint glimmer of moisture flashed in them. "But I only want to marry you." I shoved him out the door and laughed coldly. "Don't joke." With a bang, the door closed. My heart raced violently as I clutched my chest and took a deep breath. It seemed Cui Yeji had also been reborn. Otherwise, how would he know that I could make wontons? I was the legitimate eldest daughter of the Qin household, a girl whose 10 fingers had never touched spring water. In my previous life, for Cui Yeji, I painstakingly learned the culinary skills needed to make the wontons he loved most. Back then, all I wanted was to repay his kindness. My parents had died on a business trip outside the province, robbed, left with nothing. When my uncle and aunt heard the news, they cleared out the entire estate overnight and vanished. Debt collectors came to the cosmetics shop, demanding that I repay everything within 3 days, or they would drag me to the magistrate. It was Madame Cui who delivered life-saving warmth on a snowy day, bringing 3 whole carts of betrothal gifts to propose marriage. She said my parents had business ties with the Cui household. If I were willing to marry Cui Yeji, all debts related to my parents' affairs would be written off, and she would even cover the rest. Facing the empty Qin estate, I was completely lost. The Cui family seemed like the only straw I could grasp. I agreed. But I never expected that Madame Cui's sincerity existed only because Cui Yeji's original fiancé, Chen Xiaoyuan, had withdrawn from the engagement and run off to the capital to join the consort selection. The wedding date was set, the invitations already sent. The Cui household could not afford to lose face, so they decided to marry me instead to salvage the situation. I only learned the truth much later. Reborn again, I refused to live as a dependent woman trapped in someone else's household. So I sold the ancestral estate and paid off every debt myself. I kept a single ruined room of the cosmetics shop and ran it alone. Every day I slept on a mat on the floor, business trickling in with only a few customers, just enough to get by. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect Cui Yeji to chase after me relentlessly. Each morning when I opened the shop, he stood outside. Day after day, it inevitably stirred gossip. "Miss, why did you refuse young Master Cui? He's considered an ideal match by so many girls." Qing Lian, the maid who grew up with me, asked in confusion. "He may be an ideal match for someone else, but absolutely not for me." I tidied up the shop while silently praying, "May Cui Yeji not show up tomorrow." But the moment I pushed the door open, I saw his face again. What are you doing here again? My irritation flared. Cui Yeji grabbed my hand. He stood close, so close I could feel the warmth of his breath. His expression was dazed. Qing Tang, I. He looked as if he had 1,000 words caught in his throat. I shoved him away. Young Master Cui, you and I have nothing to do with each other. Don't keep getting in the way of my business. People passing by looked at me with unabashed curiosity. Cui Yeji's chest rose and fell. I came to discuss business with you. My eyes flickered slightly. He continued, I'd like to commission you to personally embroider a wedding robe for my future bride. Of course. In his heart, there had never been anyone but Chen Xiaoyuan. In my previous life, Chen Xiaoyuan failed the imperial consort selection in the capital. By the time she returned, Cui Yeji and I were already married. She sulked, then married into the Lin household, a family ranked higher than the Cui family. Unfortunately, the young master of the Lin family had been frail since childhood. Less than a year after the wedding, Chen Xiaoyuan became a widow. Wearing pure white mourning clothes, she collapsed dramatically in front of our bridal sedan chair. Her thin body, tear-filled eyes, trembling cherry lips, she looked heartbreakingly pitiful. Cui Yeji rushed forward to catch her. She conveniently fell into his arms, casting me a triumphant look. Everyone on the street saw them embrace. Rumors filled the entire city. Chen Xiaoyuan cried and threatened to throw herself into a well. Her maid pounded on the gates of the Cui household, begging Cui Yeji to come see her. That day was my birthday. I tried again and again to hold him back, but Cui Yeji heartlessly brushed my hand aside and left without even looking back. That night, when he returned home, he said he wanted to take Chen Xiaoyuan as a secondary wife. Madame Cui smashed several antique vases in fury and punished him to kneel in the ancestral hall. I wanted to talk to Cui Yeji calmly. I even brought him a bowl of wontons. But as I approached the ancestral hall, his voice pierced my ears like needles. Xin Qingtang was married only to make up the numbers. If she doesn't accept it, we can divorce. Xiaoyuan is different. Without me, she can't survive. I carried the bowl back to my room. Tears of humiliation poured down my face, my insides twisting in pain. That kind of agony, I remember it vividly even in this life. Now, seeing me silent, Cui Yeji stepped closer. I turned and walked back inside the shop. A business deal delivered straight to the door, of course I'd accept it. I flicked the abacus with my fingers. If you want me to embroider it personally, fine. This is the price. The number I tapped out was sky high. My heart thundered in my chest. Cui Yeji answered calmly, all right. Words mean nothing. Come tomorrow and we'll sign the contract. Our eyes met. His eyes were incredibly deep, always carrying an illusion of tenderness. Qing Tang, then I'll come again tomorrow. Don't call me that. Call me shopkeeper Shen. Cui Yeji froze, murmuring under his breath. Shopkeeper Shen. Watching his retreating figure, I couldn't help letting out a quiet sigh. In my previous life, he never once called my name. But now, one Qing Tang, then another Qing Tang, slipping from his tongue as naturally as breathing. The truth was, I too was someone who couldn't swallow humiliation. On our wedding night, I sat stiffly on the bridal bed until midnight, my waist aching. He pushed the door open, reeking of wine. My heart pounded nervously. He sat at the table, unmoving for a long time. I whispered, husband. Don't call me that. His voice was sharp, grating. My heart tightened. The matchmaker said, the red veil has to be lifted by you for the marriage to be auspicious. Silence filled the room, so quiet I could hear his quickened breathing. He sneered. Auspicious. What for? Xin Qingtang, you and I have no affection. From now on, we'll simply be husband and wife in name. He flicked his sleeve, shattering the ceremonial wine cup, then walked out the door. A deep, indescribable ache spread through my chest. At first light, I called Qing Lian over, intending to leave the Chui household. During breakfast, Madame Chui immediately saw through my thoughts. She pulled me into her study and handed me a ledger. These are the debts I covered for you. Now that we are one family, there is no need to calculate so closely, but since we married you into this household, you should know how much the Chui family has spent. My heart jolted. I couldn't say a word. Madame Chui smiled gently, her warmth like spring wind. She held my hands and lightly stroked them. Since you've married in, I will treat you like a daughter. You and Yeji didn't interact much before, but affection can always be nurtured. As a wife, you should learn how to win your husband's heart. She looked at me for a moment, then shifted her gaze back to the ledger. My heart, which wanted nothing more than to run, softened. Yeji's nanny once said he loved wontons most. For him, I stepped into the kitchen for the first time in my life, kneading dough, rolling wrappers, mixing fillings. Over time, my hands turned rough. Qing Lian was heartbroken. Miss, Madam always said a seamstress's hands are the most precious. How can you do such heavy work? It's fine. As long as he likes it. Bowl after bowl of wontons was carried out, only to be returned untouched. I tasted every bowl, trying to find the flaw. Was the filling wrong? The wrapper too thick? The seasoning too light? Finally, one morning, Chui Yeji took the bowl himself and placed it before him. He tasted it. A faint smile flashed across his lashes. Delicious. Just because of that single word, delicious, I went into the kitchen day after day. Miss, you don't look like the wife of a wealthy household at all. You look exactly like a cook, Qing Lian grumbled while tending the fire. But I was content. When I sent Chui Yeji off to the trading house each morning, he rarely smiled, yet I thought perhaps he was a little touched. I was wrong. The only person moved by my efforts was myself. When Chui Yeji arrived with the contract, I had just finished tidying the shop. I checked it, signed, stamped it, then saw him still seated motionlessly. Coldly, I said, "What now?" "I want to sit here and supervise the work." "Fine. Do as you like." He raised an eyebrow. "Shouldn't you be accompanying your fiancé?" I assumed that after being reborn, he would want to make up for his regrets and marry Chen Xiaoyuan properly. Then I added, but Chen Xiaoyuan has already left for the capital. Aren't you going to chase after her? Chui Yeji's gaze darkened. Don't concern yourself with that. I won't. And please don't concern yourself with me. What help can you possibly offer here? Put the fabric down and go home. After he left, Qing Lian sat beside me, threading a needle. Miss, you say you don't want to get involved with him, so why accept this job? Silver delivered to the door, why wouldn't I take it? I'm not a fool. I stroked the red satin in my hands. This wasn't ordinary fabric. Clearly Chui Yeji had gone out of his way to find it. Following the design he sent, I began outlining patterns with gold thread. When it was time to deliver the embroidery, I stepped out. Upon returning, Qing Lian was holding the satin, looking utterly devastated. Miss. I wanted to help by following your design and stitching a few lines. But somehow, the gold thread faded. I took it and examined it. A large patch of color had bled, beyond repair. This isn't the thread we normally use. Why would it fade? Did anyone come into the shop? Earlier, young Master Chui came. He said he wanted a cup of tea, so I went inside to make one. Qing Lian, how foolish. I clutched the ruined silk, anger rising like a storm. No business survives without trickery. In my previous life I fell for his mask. And in this life, I let him pull his little schemes again. Furious, I rushed outside, ignoring Qing Lian calling after me. At the Chui residence, Yeji seemed to know I would come. 2 cups of tea were already placed on the table. I shoved the red satin into his arms. Before he could speak, I raised my hand and slapped him hard. You sabotaged me. What do you want? Cui Yeji froze at first, then touched his reddened cheek, and suddenly laughed. Shopkeeper Shin, what are you talking about? You ruined the fabric, and now you blame me. I grabbed his collar, glaring. Stop pretending, Cui Yeji. You're reborn. Cui Yeji's gaze stalled. His throat moved, and his voice turned unusually low. I only wanted to look after your business. Only a fool would believe his lies. In my previous life, I'd already been burned once by the mask of kindness he wore so well. Maybe it was the wontons I made, or maybe seeing Qin Xiaoyuan marry into the Lin household had provoked him. 3 months after our wedding, for the first time, he stayed in my room. He didn't even remove his sleeping robe. I trembled beneath him, tears burning my eyes. He had no intention of stopping. I bit my lip until it bled, suppressing the pain. When he finished, Cui Yeji turned his back to me and fell asleep. That night, I felt a mix of sorrow and relief. I had become the legitimate wife of the Cui family, repaying Madame Cui's kindness, but my husband felt no tenderness for me at all. If there was no affection, so be it. I only wanted a child of my own. Whether son or daughter, in this high-walled rear courtyard, at least I would have someone to rely upon. Heaven took pity on me. After that night, I became pregnant. The happiest of all was Madame Cui. She assigned 4 or 5 maids to my courtyard, chose a midwife and a wet nurse in advance. Cui Yeji's attitude toward me grew increasingly gentle. When he returned home from business trips, he brought back 2 boxes of red bird's nest, saying they were to nourish me. Qing Lian clapped excitedly. Miss. We finally have something to be proud of. I smiled, touching my small belly, believing bitterness had finally given way to sweetness. But everything shattered the moment Qin Xiaoyuan collapsed in front of our sedan chair. Cui Yeji returned and declared he wanted to marry her. I clenched my fists and said angrily. For a concubine to enter the household, the head wife must approve. If I don't allow it, she cannot step into the Cui residence. He sneered. Who said I want her as a concubine? I want her as my equal wife. Slap. The blow that landed on his cheek didn't come from me, it was Madame Cui. One hand clutching her chest, her other trembling as she pointed at him, she shouted. Fool. She didn't want you in the first place. Now that she's a widow, she suddenly remembers how good our family is. Anyone with half a brain can see the collision on the street was her scheme. But you, of course, you insist on falling for it. Mother, Xiaoyuan is gentle and simple, not like what you say. Slap. Another blow landed on his other cheek. I covered my mouth in shock. Madame Cui said sternly. You were always sharp-minded. Why do you turn into an idiot the moment that woman appears? Go kneel in the ancestral hall. If you can't straighten out your thoughts, don't come out. Cui Yeji knelt in the ancestral hall for 3 days. Madame Cui lay bedridden for 3 days. Her aged hand held mine. I fear I won't last. Qing Tang, the bottom chest in my wardrobe contains my dowry. It's yours. If that woman ever enters this house, never let yourself or the child suffer. After saying so, she breathed her last. Once I finished arranging her funeral, I thought the matter of Qin Xiaoyuan would finally pass. But unexpectedly, she appeared outside the Cui residence in full mourning garb, kneeling and declaring she wished to keep vigil for Madame Cui's spirit. She cried as she kowtowed, her fair forehead bleeding. Someone said, Miss Chen, if the old madam in heaven sees your sincerity, she would not bear to refuse you. Please get up. Yes, if I were the old madam, I'd certainly welcome such a good daughter-in-law. What does being a widow matter? When a man loses his wife, he can remarry. Why can't a woman marry again? It seemed impossible to refuse her without becoming the talk of the city. Cui Yeji opened the gates, helped her inside, and summoned a physician to tend to her wounds. Once he settled everything for his beloved, he came to my room, saying he had something important to discuss. Then he led me into the secret chamber beneath the study and locked me inside. By then, my belly was already big. I knelt painfully at his feet, begging through tears. For the sake of the child, let me go. For the sake of the child. Otherwise, I would have divorced you long ago. He brushed my hands aside. One household cannot have two main wives. Stay here. We'll talk after you give birth. I never lived to leave that chamber. During childbirth, I suffered complications and died. As for Qing Lian, my faithful maid, on the first day I was imprisoned, he had her beaten to death. Thinking of the debts that bound me, of the child who never saw the world. I clenched my fists, my heart tearing with pain. Footsteps sounded behind me. I turned. Madame Cui stood at the doorway, smiling. Qing Tang, you're here. In an instant, her gaze swept across Cui Yeji's face. What's going on? She looked at me, bewildered. I pressed my lips together, forcing my emotions down. Then she asked, what are you holding in your hands? My son asked Qing Tang to embroider the wedding robe, Cui Yeji replied. Wedding robe? What wedding robe? Madame Cui frowned. Didn't you say you weren't planning to marry yet? Mother, Cui Yeji said, I want to marry Qing Tang. But she refuses, so I had to think of another way to get close to her. That robe is actually for her. My heart jolted sharply. What? He wasn't planning to marry Qin Xiuyuan, the woman he treasured so deeply. Madame Cui looked at me, then at Cui Yeji, and let out a long sigh. Well, this is young people's business. I won't interfere. She stepped out of the room. Cui Yeji handed the red satin back to me. No matter what, you must take responsibility. You obviously switched the embroidery thread. He raised his brows. Do you have proof? The words stuck in my throat. This satin was specially woven for me in Jiangnan. Only a few bolts exist each year, the rest presented to nobles in the palace. I kept only this one. Shopkeeper Shin, you will take responsibility. He emphasized the last words, one by one. What do you want? The deposit is paid. The contract is signed. You must compensate me. My heart tightened. Fabric this rare, selling my entire shop wouldn't be enough to cover it. Cui Yeji smirked. If you can't compensate, then marry me. My breath seized. Images from my past life flashed through my mind. I kicked him hard in the knee. He cried out, dropping to one knee. Cui Yeji, I've tolerated you long enough. In my past life, you killed me. I didn't come to settle accounts with you, only wanted to run far away. But you refused to let me go. Now you even want to ruin my shop, block my livelihood, how shameless can you be? He slowly stood, rubbing his knee. I want nothing else. Make me 20 bowls of wontons, and we'll cancel our debts. How about it? Dream on. A seamstress's hands are precious, you're not worthy. I exhaled sharply, my chest rising and falling violently. I wronged you in our past life, he said softly. Give me one chance. I'll make things right. I narrowed my eyes, forcing back tears. Make things right. With what? You killed me, and killed the child who hadn't even been born. He froze, staring at me with a stunned, innocent expression. I only locked you up. I never mistreated you. And Qing Lian. I shot back. That was an accident. She wanted to report to the magistrate. I sent someone to stop her, and during the struggle she hit her head. Enough. I cut him off. I don't want to talk about the past. If you're truly remorseful, burn the contract. We go our separate ways. His eyes dipped. His voice hardened. No. Exactly as I expected. Even reborn, he was still the same wretched man. I glared and turned away. Fine. I'll pay your penalty fee. Chui Yeji stepped in front of me. If it's for the unborn child, we can always have another. He shouldn't have said that. The moment he mentioned the child, fury erupted through me. You dare talk about the child? When I went into labor, I said through clenched teeth, my maid delivered the message to you, asking for a midwife and physician. I waited for hours. Blood everywhere, pain tearing my stomach open. But no one came. The rage I had buried for a lifetime burst into flame. I died from the pain. And my child suffocated inside me. His face drained of color. He collapsed onto his knees, whispering, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Chui Yeji, can't you just let me go? Humans must look forward eventually. After a long silence, he stood, pulled the contract from his robe, and tore it to pieces. I stepped out the grand gates of the Chui residence, wiping my tears, exhaling deeply. I didn't know why he suddenly felt remorse, and I didn't care. Because I knew an opportunity to change my fate was coming soon. By my calculations, it should be today. The imperial court issued a proclamation. The beloved princess, soon to marry a neighboring kingdom, was recruiting the finest seamstresses in the nation to embroider her wedding robe. In my previous life, I had stood dazed before that very notice. When I told Madame Chui, she had gently said, You're already the main wife of the Chui family. It's enough to embroider a few handkerchiefs for leisure. Why lower your status to become a mere seamstress? With one sentence, she dismissed me. This time, I would seize the opportunity. And accepting Chui Yeji's earlier commission had helped me warm up my skills. Good satin was hard to come by, after all. I went to the magistrate's office to register, submitted an embroidered sample I had prepared beforehand. Now all that remained was to wait. The end of the month approached. It was time to pay the thread shop owner. I hugged my ledger, flicking my abacus over and over, but no matter how I calculated, the numbers wouldn't match. A sudden cough sounded. I looked up and saw Lin Wenxian step over the threshold. His attendant laid a long embroidered skirt across my table. Lin Wenxian's voice was gentle. Miss Qingtang, this is my late mother's keepsake. A few months ago, during repairs at home, the clothing chest was soaked by accident and it ended up like this. Can you restore it? A large section of the skirt's hem was yellowed. I said, if I embroider a flower over it, that might cover the stain. Hearing that, his brows loosened. He lifted a hand to his lips and coughed lightly. All right. How much will it cost, and when will it be done? A deposit first. Pay the remaining amount when I deliver it. I'll bring it to your residence in 5 days. No need. I'll pay everything now. My family used to work with Shen's embroidery house. Your skills can be trusted. He left the silver and departed. I flicked my abacus. Finally, the accounts balanced. It was strange. In my past life, at this exact time, Chen Xiaoyuan should have already returned from failing the consort selection and would soon be preparing for marriage with Lin Wenxian. But from the way he looked just now, that didn't seem to be the case. 5 days later, I went to the Lin residence to deliver the skirt. On the pale pink hem, a blooming peony covered the stain perfectly. Lin Wenxian seemed satisfied. If I need anything in the future, I'll trouble you again, shopkeeper Shin. His gaze held a depth I didn't recall from my past life. Back then, the only time we interacted was during childhood. Merchants in the city often hosted gatherings. The children always played together. But his health had always been frail. He couldn't run without losing breath. Whenever something happened, he got scolded, and other children avoided him. I was different. I'd always preferred quiet. When I saw him sitting alone in a corner, I would carry my embroidery and pretend to sit there by coincidence. He would stare and mutter to himself. I don't need company. I pulled a funny face at him and smiled. Who said I'm keeping you company? You're keeping me company. He froze in surprise. I laughed even brighter. Later, both his parents died of sudden illness, and he inherited the Lin family business as soon as he came of age. My father once said Wenxian was a brilliant merchant. By his own strength, he revitalized his family's legacy. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but wonder. There were many embroidery houses in the city. Why would he go out of his way to bring such a precious keepsake to my tiny shop? Lost in thought, I found myself at the magistrate's office. A crowd gathered around the proclamation board, pointing and whispering. Someone who recognized me exclaimed with congratulations. Miss Shen. Congratulations, you passed the preliminary round. What? The imperial selection for palace seamstresses. Your name is on the list. Hurry home and prepare, the next round requires embroidery on site. My heart pounded wildly. I squeezed through the crowd and found my name. When I turned around, Qin Xiaoyuan stood before me, eyes red. Her lip trembled, tears streaming down her face. Then, with a thud, she dropped to her knees before me. Miss Qing Tang, she choked out, I beg you, return Yeji to me. Judging eyes from all around stabbed into me. I stepped back and flicked her hand off my skirt. Miss Chen, what nonsense are you spouting? Did failing the consort selection drive you mad? The crowd shifted their gaze toward Qin Xiaoyuan. Her face stiffened, tears pouring like rain. Yeji and I had a promise, she sobbed. He said he only wants to marry you, and you. I have no relation with young Master Tui. As far as I know, you dissolved the engagement first, because you wanted to go to the capital for the consort selection. Now that you can't marry into the Tui family, you throw this bucket of filth onto me. Whispers rose around us, fingers pointing at Qin Xiaoyuan. Shame burned across her face. She scrambled up, dusting her dress, and left in humiliation. Pitiful and hateful all at once. Throwing her life from one man to another, one wrong bet after another. I watched her retreating figure for a long time. When the crowd dispersed, I finally headed back. These past days, I had left the shop in Qing Lian's care, hired a seamstress I knew to help, and focused entirely on practicing my embroidery. The night before the competition, Qing Lian urged me to sleep early. Just then, a series of knocks sounded on the door. We looked at each other in surprise. Qing Lian called out. Who is it? A familiar voice replied from outside. It's Lin Wenxian. Has shopkeeper Shen retired for the night? Is it convenient to speak? I opened the door. A fine drizzle fell outside. Lin Wenxian stood without an umbrella, half his hair soaked, raindrops clinging to his shoulders. I stepped aside quickly and invited him in. He took a wrapped bundle from his robe, his voice gentle. I heard you're going to participate in the palace seamstress selection. Here, these are satin and embroidery threads I brought back from Shangzhou. See if they're useful. Lin Wenxian's hands were soaked, yet the bundle remained perfectly dry. Warmth rose in my chest. Young Master Lin, you came this late at night just to bring me these. My voice trembled despite myself. He lowered his gaze and smiled. I rushed back from Shangzhou. Sorry for disturbing you. He turned to leave, but I reached out to stop him. At least drink a cup of hot tea before you go. You'll catch a cold otherwise. Lin Wenxian paused, then nodded. We sat facing each other across the table. Our eyes met, then both of us quickly looked away, forcing awkward smiles. He lifted the cup and sipped lightly. The exam is tomorrow. Are you ready? Meichem, mostly. With what you've brought, it's like adding flowers to brocade. So you've prepared thoroughly. His voice held a hint of happiness. I lifted my head. Lin Wenxian's eyes curved gently as he looked at me. Flustered, I blurted out without thinking. Yuan Chen Xiaoyuan. I will not marry her. His gaze became firm. In my previous life, I died because of her. In this one, I will never marry her again. My heart lurched violently. I looked at him, tense, probing. You are. I'm someone reborn. No wonder. So that was why Chen Xiaoyuan blocked my path earlier, begging me to give Cui Yeji back to her. Unable to marry into the Lin household, she tried to tie the Cui family down through marriage. Lin Wenxian said that Chen Xiaoyuan's mother and his own mother were distant relatives. In the previous life, after Chen Xiaoyuan failed the consort selection and Cui Yeji married me, her mother went to the Lin family asking for a marriage, claiming she only wanted a respectable title and not to let her daughter be seen as unwanted. Lin Wenxian agreed for the sake of his deceased mother. But Chen Xiaoyuan secretly poisoned him, killing him to seize the Lin family fortune. Little did she know Lin Wenxian had already written a will, donating everything to Tuanan orphanage. Only then did she turn her attention to Cui Yeji. In this life, he said, even if she dies crying outside my gate, I will never bring her into my household. His eyes held unwavering resolve. I suddenly thought of Cui Yeji. No wonder he felt guilt toward me. With Chen Xiaoyuan's vicious nature, after I died in the previous life and she seized control of the Cui household, Cui Yeji must have suffered bitterly. His death, too, might have been tied to her. Reborn, he remembered only my kindness. But things had changed. People were no longer the same. Lin Wenxian coughed lightly and stood. It's late. I'll take my leave. I rose to see him out. Just as he reached the door, he turned back. Oh, right, Qing Tang. I wanted to tell you. In our previous life, when you were being hounded by creditors, I was bedridden. By the time I recovered, you had already married into the Cui family. His sudden words stunned me. I didn't know how to respond. He smiled helplessly. I wish you success tomorrow. When he left, I had no room left in my mind for anything else. I tidied the table, preparing for tomorrow's exam. The exam for the palace seamstress selection was announced on the spot by the head matron sent from the Imperial Bureau of Garment Works. After verifying our identities, I followed the exam officer to my assigned seat. Today's test, embroider the central motif for the princess's wedding robe. Time limit, the burning of 3 sticks of incense. My competitors were the top seamstresses from the 3 largest embroidery houses in the city. And there was only one spot. I cleared my mind and followed Mother's teachings. Use thread as ink, use the needle as a brush. On the red satin, an image gradually took form. 16 shades of blue threaded back and forth, from pale to deep. Until a lifelike peacock unfurled across the fabric. A gong sounded. Everyone stopped. The matrons inspected our work one by one. One stopped before me. Others embroidered mandarin ducks and phoenixes. Why did you choose a peacock? I rose and curtsied. Reporting to Mama, a peacock signifies good fortune, and the white crest on its head symbolizes growing old together in harmony. When a peacock spreads its tail, it resembles brocade, representing the princess's journey to a foreign land, her future radiant and blessed. How interesting. From behind the screen, a noblewoman stepped out. Her bearing elegant, her presence commanding. Her gaze held clear appreciation. All officials present knelt at once. We hurriedly followed. Blessings upon the princess. She smiled faintly, her aura serene yet imposing. I have long grown tired of mandarin ducks, phoenixes, and floral patterns. This peacock, I like it very much. My heart leapt into my throat. But then she added. However, I must also review the works submitted from other regions before making the final decision. Yes, Your Highness, everyone replied. The matron told us to return home and wait for the results. I hadn't even stepped out of the magistrate's office when word spread through every alley that the princess herself had praised my work. Business at the shop immediately flourished. Many noble ladies came to commission garments from me. Qing Lian was overjoyed. "Miss, in a few months we'll need to hire more people and move to a larger shop." I nodded. No matter the outcome of the selection, I had already achieved what I wanted, both fame and fortune. Customers streamed in without pause. Only when night fell did we finally send off the last visitor and close the shop. I checked the deposit payments collected that day. A faint burning smell reached my nose. "Qing Lian, is something on fire?" "No, miss. I didn't light anything." I ran to the backyard. Thick smoke billowed, a raging fire had spread from the kitchen, engulfing the shop. "Hurry, get help. Fetch water." We ran to the main gates. The door was scorching hot, smoke seeping through the cracks. "Miss, it's burning in front too." Qing Lian and I used stools to ram the door open. A figure stood outside. Chen Xiaoyuan. She let out a crazed laugh. "Xin Qing Tang. If I could kill you in the last life, I can kill you again in this one." So all four of us had been reborn. There was no time to think. I grabbed quilts, soaked them with water, covered myself in Qing Lian, and tried to charge out through the flames. Each attempt failed, the fire grew fiercer, forcing us back. Outside, Chen Xiaoyuan laughed wildly, holding a wine gourd. "Come out. If you step outside, I'll splash wine on you. You can burn faster." A man rushed forward, grabbing her arm. "Enough, stop this, Xiaoyuan." Chen Xiaoyuan's eyes were bloodshot, her teeth clenched. "Why should I? It's your own greed for power that led to this. You reap what you sow." In the last life, when Qing Tang went into labor, I wasn't home. You blocked the midwife and physician, causing her to die with her child. I trusted the wrong person, my karma is mine to bear. And the same goes for you. The smoke got thicker. I stomped my foot, now was not the time for this fight. I shouted toward the entrance. "Cui Yeji. Get people to put out the fire." He didn't seem to hear, locked in a struggle with Chen Xiaoyuan. Soon after, a group of men arrived with buckets. Leading them was Lin Wenxian. Several buckets splashed down, pushing the flames back. Lin Wenxian reached out his hand. "Qing Tang, come." I dragged Qing Lian and ran outside, just as a shrill scream pierced the air. Cui Yeji and Chen Xiaoyuan had fallen together into the flames. By the time I got onto Lin Wenxian's carriage, a crowd surged toward the burning wreckage. Someone shouted, "Find a physician. Their faces are burned beyond recognition." My heart clenched. I temporarily stayed at the Lin residence. Half the shop had been destroyed, repairs would take time. Most of the fabric burned, though the silver was thankfully intact. Chen Xiaoyuan's parents came to beg Lin Wenxian for mercy, but he shut them down in a few sharp sentences. Rumor said Chen Xiaoyuan's entire face was ruined. She was now imprisoned, awaiting trial. Cui Yeji had lost a large patch of skin on his left leg and was bedridden. Naturally, I had no intention of visiting him. I was busy with the shop and waiting for the selection results. During lunch, Lin Wenxian's coughing worsened. I frowned. "Didn't you say the medicine was effective?" He hid his mouth with a handkerchief, breathing heavily. His attendant, Xiao Lu, said anxiously. "Miss Shen, he was getting better. But that day, rushing to save you, he inhaled too much smoke. The physician said it won't heal immediately." A pang of guilt hit me. "Xiao Lu," Lin Wenxian said sharply. "No more talking." Just then, Qing Lian burst in, panting. "Miss. The proclamation. The results. You passed. You've been selected. You can go to the capital." I jumped up and hugged her tightly. In the next moment, I noticed the loneliness flickering across Lin Wenxian's face. Could it be he didn't want me to leave? The night before my departure, I finished packing and went to close the window. When I leaned out, I saw Lin Wenxian standing alone in the courtyard. I walked over, took out a pouch of silver, and held it toward him. Thank you for putting up with me so long. I'm sorry to trouble you. I know you're wealthy, but I still need to pay rent. He froze. I grabbed his wrist and placed the pouch in his palm. His large hand closed around mine. Warmth spreading from his touch straight into my chest. Qing Tang, he said softly. His gaze deepened. I instantly understood what he wanted to say and stopped him. Don't say it. In my last life, marriage trapped me and ended in tragedy. This life, I only want to live for myself. I won't let anyone bind me again. A faint shimmer gathered in Lin Wenxian's eyes. I added softly, your family's business spans the entire country. Who knows? We may meet again in the capital. He lowered his head and smiled. Perhaps. That night, I drifted between waking and sleep. When dawn crept across the horizon, I decided not to sleep anymore. I got up, went to the kitchen, kneaded dough, rolled wrappers, and mixed filling. The memory of making wontons, from my previous life, felt etched into my bones. At breakfast, I placed a steaming bowl before Lin Wenxian. Thank you for everything you've done for me. If you like it, once I'm in the capital, I'll make some for you again. He ate quietly, head lowered. My nose stung, the words on my tongue never made it out. I left for the capital with the palace matron. Qing Lian stayed behind to manage the shop. Entering the palace was far from easy. After passing layer after layer of screening, I was finally chosen to help embroider the princess's wedding robe. Seeing the brilliant peacock spread across the crimson silk, my heart overflowed with satisfaction. The princess's marriage proceeded smoothly. The envoys praised the wedding robe endlessly. The empress, delighted, summoned me to Phoenix Hall. Enter the palace as a lady-in-waiting, or take 100 taels of gold. Choose. I knelt and kowtowed once, answering without pride or fear. This humble woman wants the gold. The empress laughed. You're a frank little thing. Why gold instead of a court position? Because someone outside the palace is waiting for me. Very well. I'll have it prepared immediately. Leaving the palace, I rented a small townhouse with a storefront in the capital and resumed my craft. I wrote to Qing Lian, asking her to come live with me. Half a month later, she arrived in tears. Miss, I missed you so much. Is everyone at home well? I asked. Her watery eyes darted left and right. Miss, you have no family left. Who are you asking about? I pinched her cheek. You're getting cheekier by the day. She puffed her lips, then continued, more seriously. Chen Xiaoyuan died in prison. Infection, her whole body rotted. As for young Master Cui, to save his life, they amputated his leg. The Cui household is desolate now. I frowned. I wasn't asking about them. I know, she murmured. You were asking about young Master Lin. My heart tightened. I gestured for her to continue. His illness has healed. The Lin family's business is thriving. But I haven't seen him recently. An emptiness swept through me. I forced a smile and pulled Qing Lian into the courtyard. Love cannot be forced. It was a truth I learned long ago. With Qing Lian at my side, I worked freely and boldly. I hired skilled embroiderers. The capital was full of nobles, and with the princess's favor behind me, business never lacked. 3 months later, I rented an entire small building. My little shop became a full embroidery house. The Ascension embroidery house hung proudly overhead. Father, mother, your daughter has not shamed you. Qing Lian wiped her nose. Miss, we finally made it. Just then, a ragged pair, one man, one woman, stumbled out from the crowd and knelt before me. Qing Tang, you've grown successful. Can you spare some money for your uncle and aunt? Qing Lian and I exchanged a look. My parents are gone, I said coldly. I have no family left. Stop pretending you're related to me. The man stood and barked. Nonsense. I'm your real uncle, your father's younger brother. Oh. Is that so? 2 years ago I reported my uncle and aunt to the magistrate for theft. They're wanted criminals now. His filthy face paled instantly. A group of thugs from a gambling den rushed over. Finally. You owe money, pay up. The pair fled in terror. Qing Lian snorted after them. We linked arms and turned toward the door. When a familiar male voice drifted from behind us. Excuse me, shopkeeper Shen. Are you still accepting commissions? My heart tightened. I turned. Lin Wenxian stood there in a sky-blue outer robe, handsome and graceful. What commission? For my bride. A wedding robe. I steadied my breath. And what pattern does the young master's bride prefer? My bride's name is Qing Tang, he said. So embroider high tang blossoms for her. My heart pounded. He opened his arms. I ran straight into them. A red glow spread across the sky. And the future unfurled before us, bright and radiant. The end.